Hello, you guys, and welcome. Welcome to the Good News Sunday Show. My name is Sonia McCullough Lockridge, and I am your host. And I joy to come to you in this fashion. For the month of, for the month of October, we are doing what I have titled 31 Days of the Art of Engaging the Word Exegetically in an Expository Fashion. That is what we are leaning in and learning for the month of October. Now, the reason why we are doing this is because in August and September, we read through the book of Jeremiah. We read through the book of Jeremiah, Jeremiah being the largest book of the Bible and having the most words in it. We read through that book in 60 days, and we titled that 60 Days of Hope. So, in order to properly execute the written word for this Bible study, the only hope for a numb nation, I have decided to learn how to do this particular art. I have decided to learn how to do this particular task. And the book that we are taking our learning from currently is this book by Mr. Hayden Robinson. Biblical Preaching by Hayden Robinson. And the subtitle is The Development and Delivery of Expository Messages. The development and the delivery of expository messages. So that is our focus for the month of October. And we have also learned that it's going to take a little more time to learn how to learn this art than we initially imagined. So it is going to take us a total of 6 months to learn this art. And so we will be continuing this study for 5 months in 2024, giving us a total of 6 months of digging into this topic of expository messaging and so on and so forth. So this is our first text, and we do have some other texts that we will be pulling our information from, that we will be learning from, and we will be consulting those texts in those months, in the months of January, March, May, July, and August. January, March, May, July, and August. For the months that we are not digging into this topic, we will be writing. We'll be writing expository essays and messages in the months that we are not delving into this topic. So, yesterday we talked about, in a very essential part of this task of writing, and that is the sentence structure with the subject and complement in place. The sentence structure with the subject and complement in place, and we learn how to properly execute the writing of a sentence, such as what we just mentioned. Today, we are talking about the steps in the one step in the preparation of the expository message, and that is selecting the passage. Selecting the passage. And we're getting this information from chapter 2 of this book. Chapter 2 of this book. No, we're getting this information from chapter 3 of this book, I believe. Chapter 3. Chapter 3. We're getting this information about selecting the passage from chapter 3 of this textbook, not the text as in the Holy Word of God. So, We have some steps that I'm going to mention that we need to execute in order to select the passage for our messaging, and I'm just going to name them off. The number one thing, and I've actually called it A, but the number one thing we need to do is read through the book several times. Read through the book that we are pulling our messaging from several times. So, like I mentioned before, I read through the book of Jeremiah online recently, and I pre-read before I read, so that was at least 2 times, and I'm currently reading through it one more time. And I studied it in my Sunday school class, with my Sunday school class this summer, and I studied it with Bible Study Fellowship class this past spring. So that should bring me to about 5 times of reading the book of Jeremiah. So that is first and foremost before we even begin to select a passage. We need to read through the book that we're considering several times, the book of the Bible that we're considering several times. Number 2 is to observe the natural literary divisions. To observe the natural literary divisions and or topics that the particular book is speaking of. To observe and note the natural literary divisions. That's number 2. Number 3 is to choose one or more passages to expound on, to exposit. Choose one or more passage to expound on and or exposit. And like the book of Jeremiah, it is 52 chapters. So there's no real way we could pull a particular message from the entirety of the book of Jeremiah, because it's just the length of it is way too long. So we would have to divide it in passages and paragraphs to get a better grip on it for a message, for a spoken message. Now, for a written message or a Bible study, then we could handle it as a whole, but knowing that that is going to be a very in-depth Bible study. So that's number 3. Next, we need to tailor the message to the time and or the literary budget that we've been given. So next, we need to tailor the messaging to the time of a spoken message or the literary budget that has been provided for us. So if we're going to give a 20-minute keynote, then we would need to tailor the message to a 20-minute keynote. If we are writing a 5,000 word essay, then we need to tailor our messaging to the 5,000 word essay, and so on and so forth. So we need to tailor the message to the time or the literary budget that we have been provided or that we have selected. And next, we need to consider the context. Make sure we consider the context within the book of the passage that we have chosen. Consider the context. Consider the context in the book of the passage that we have selected as our target passage. And finally, but not lastly, we need to consider the original language. We need to consider the original language, and then we need to consider the genre. We need to consider the genre. Now, we've talked about genres prior, and I'm not sure if we talked about the Greek and Hebrew and Aramaic keywords or messaging or terminology or language, ancient language. We need to consider the ancient language of the text as well as the genre. So that is about 8 things that I've just talked about that we need to consider, the steps we need to take in selecting the passage of which our message is coming from. It's about 8 steps that we just mentioned that we need to follow to select the passage for our messaging. Now, tomorrow we will talk about the actual method of studying the text, of studying the passage. We'll talk about actually studying the passage tomorrow and the steps that are involved in this. And don't worry if I'm saying stuff that you're not getting, because there will be a PDF available of this 31-day structure that we have gone through, that I will be writing and have already started writing, that will be available for you on or before October 31st. So that is all I have for us today. Tomorrow we will talk about studying the passage and the method involved in studying the passage. Today we were talking about selecting the passage. Tomorrow we will talk about studying the passage. And this is day 14 of 31 days of the art of engaging the word exegetically in an expository fashion, in an expository everyday fashion. This is Sonia McCullough Lockridge signing out for the Good News Sunday Show, Keyword Bible Studies, and the one and only Jesus.com. Thank you, and be blessed in the Lord on this very day. Thank you.